I thought my remote drawing was fine.
I mean, your remote drawing is right up there with your drawing.
Right.
All right. So anyway, so the government gets this guy, and he's like A1 number one psychic.
Is
right?
it Uri Geller?
It is Uri Geller.
Oh!
You are a psychic, after all.
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Urine Geller? No?
From the dawn of time, man has collected and shared stories. Many of those stories are inspirational. Some are haunting. And many of them are downright kooky. Welcome to Kooky Tales, a show where Rob and Susan discuss stories ranging from the supernatural to the downright bizarre and everything in between. Whether you prefer the dance macabre or doing the funky chicken, join us as we decide if these tales are spooky, full of dookie, or just downright kooky. Here on Kooky Tales.
Same lighting, change the lighting. Move the cameras. We move the cameras every episode. And there's a strange picture of a homeless Where's Waldo. What is
That's
that?
you.
Where is that?
Well, I updated last week's picture with what you're wearing today, so I added a green hat and a cloak and dagger shirt.
I see. All right. Little updates there. We got to keep it fresh.
Gotta keep it fresh.
Looking good. We have a good, last week you asked for a episode that had something to do with psychic powers,
Yeah.
ESP, things like that. And so on this week's episode of the Kooky Tales Podcast, I have something that lines up, but you have something for us. You have a drink in front of us. What do you have here?
Ooh, I went with something that's more guaranteed to work.
Do you want to tell everybody, if you didn't watch the last episode, our last week's drink did not go well.
No, last week we brought home some chocolate cream mezcal from Mexico that we've had now since September, and we've been saving it. And so I opened it up, and it was rancid, and we both got sick afterwards. It wasn't good.
It's not good.
It left this coating on my tongue that tasted like the beach of Mexico.
It tasted like when you ask for a drink and you go, "What's it taste like?" and you go, "Mexico." That's not
in a good way.
No.
Anyway,
if you said a drink from Mexico, that would be okay.
Yeah, no, it tasted like Mexico, the dirt of Mexico.
Yeah.
Today
so what do we
we're
have
drinking 2 ounces of Apple Crown, and then we filled our cups with ginger ale. So it's a go-to basic, not a bartender drink. Tastes like a treat because we haven't really been drinking too much soda.
No. Would you like a coaster for the thing here? I have.
Is that a Smurf?
No. This is, as I'm sure you know, Figar. Hold on, I want to show everybody this. This is we made these several years ago for a video game show. I don't know if you can see that. That is Figar from Dig Dug. There you go. And I will be using Dig Dug.
Dig Dug looks like a Smurf.
I don't think it looks like a Smurf. It just looks like Dig Dug. That's what it's supposed to look like. Refreshing. Much better than last week.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to end it with a trip to the bathroom.
I knew you were going to come up with a good drink for one of two reasons. One, because we're alcoholics. Or two, because this episode has everything to do about psychic powers. It has more to do about remote viewing. Do you know what remote viewing is?
Yes.
Remote viewing is a concept that some people claim to have the ability to remote view, which is the ability to see things in other places. They use their psychic powers. She is already drawing. Already something she's using her. You're going to get a chance to test your remote viewing capabilities later on in the show.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now, before we, what is that?
Remote viewing. So that when they do the remote viewing test, they're always like, are you seeing a star, a triangle, or a circle? And this time I see a triangle with a glass of Crown.
Okay, well, that's not really remote viewing. That's ESP test for
Oh,
the cards.
shoot.
Because the one person is looking at the cards and you're supposed to read their minds.
Oh.
But what remote viewing would be is if I left the cards in the car and I said, use your powers to go see what's in the car.
It's like what psychics see. They're like, okay, little Susie Pocono got killed out in the woods, and this is what happened, and I saw it.
It could be. It could be.
Yes.
But I'm going to explain everything to you
All right.
in excruciating detail.
Oh boy.
Now, before we get started, before we get started, I want to ask you what you remember about the movie Stargate. Do you remember the movie Stargate?
No, but I'm terrible at movies. Love you.
True. Stargate was the movie with Kurt Russell. He was the soldier guy, and James Spader was the guy, and they found the portal that was the Stargate, and it opened up, and then they went back basically to the other planet that was like Egypt. Remember, and there was they saw the pyramids, and they could travel through. They went back and forth, and they had to solve the Stargate. Remember that? And there was
I don't know that I've seen this movie.
well, I'm sure you did, because when I got my first real home stereo system, that movie thumps your subwoofers. And so I would crank up the bass when the ships would come over the pyramid and go, whoa, 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 like that. So,
Sounds like a pod racer.
kind of.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, what have I told you that there was, completely unrelated to that, by the way, a real Project Stargate that was funded by our federal government that ran for longer than you would think and more recently than you would think.
I mean, you do know where I worked for the last 28 years, right?
Yeah,
I'd believe it.
yeah. It is, but this is not like some flunky little project. This was funded by the CIA. This is crazy, crazy kooky thing. So, Project Stargate, sometimes if you look online, it may be called the Stargate Project or Project : Stargate, same thing, was the result of a memo that our government intercepted from the Soviet Union. And basically, it wasn't even a memo. It was like their annual funding, like how much they were spending on stuff their government was. And as somebody went through, they got a hold of this and they went through. This was in the early 70s, like 1971, 1972. Someone in the U.S. got a hold of the Soviet Union's budget. And one of the things they saw on there was a line item for basically remote viewing or psychic research. And the budget was 60 million rubles. So rubles, it's difficult to convert rubles to dollars, especially at that time, because there is a conversion rate. It was like a little bit less than $1. So you could say 60 million rubles is like $50 million at the time. But it's not a one-to-one thing, because $1 here is worth less than 1 ruble there. Like for 5 rubles, I think it said you could get a hotel room for the night, which obviously you
Right.
couldn't get a hotel for $5 here. So the takeaway is that it was an insane amount of money. And this is during the height of the Cold War.
60 million rubles.
Yes. What did I say?
Rubles. Which Indian?
Is there a difference between
All right.
rubles and rubles?
So here's a Russian memo, right? So it says Russia, 60 million rubles remote viewing.
That's probably what it looked like. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Remember when I went to Russia?
Your best drawing so far.
Right? It looks like I'm really good at memos. That's why. Yeah. Okay. So there's a memo.
And so what happened was our government was like, hey, if they're doing that, we need to be doing that. We can't let them, it's just like the moon race. It was like all these things where they would say, we think they're going to get to the moon first. We got to put a bunch of money so that we get to the moon first, right? Like that sort of thing, right? So when they found out that they thought the Soviet Union was doing USP or ESP research, they were like, well, we better get on that. We better start doing that,
There
right?
could be something, and it could be used for national defense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was the idea. That's how Project Stargate got started. Okay. The thing is, one of the takeaways when I was reading about this week is that we don't know whether or not they were doing it, but what's important is that we thought we knew that they were doing it. You know what I mean? So whether or not they were doing it is really immaterial, right? It's just that we thought they were doing it based off this document. So, I mean, it could have been a fake document, but it doesn't matter, right? In 1972, now Project Stargate has gone through a lot of name changes, and I may mention them, but it doesn't matter. It's all, the big pictures, it's all Project Stargate, okay? But in 1972, it was called Scanate, and what this project was, is they sent out their feelers, and they said, we gotta find people that have psychic powers. And then we got to bring them into the government, and we got to test them. Because there's going to be a lot of hoaxers, a lot of frauds, a lot of fakes, a lot of charlatans, if you will. And so they had to figure out, they had to come up with a series of tests because, we don't want to go into war with fake psychics. Right? That's not going to do us any good.
What was that lady's name? Jean Brown or something? The one that you would phone call?
Jean Dixon. Jean Dixon was different, but... yeah, or who was remember the lady that was like, I remember, like she was from the Caribbean.
Yeah, she was like, call my number, man.
That was it, right? And so you would call and...
see what I did here?
No.
Scanate. They've got their feelers out.
Oh, there you go. Well, unfortunately, we were not able to hire insects. You've been watching Men in Black. So anyway, they... got a few people and they said, I have psychic powers, and it didn't work out. But then they got somebody that blew them away. They got somebody and they did multiple tests. They said, it was like in a military complex, and they would go into the other room and set things up, and then they would come back in and they would say, use your remote viewing power to see what's in the next room. And he did. He was able to do it.
Okay.
Successfully multiple times. And so they said, this guy is the real deal. And so they put all their money on this guy.
Okay.
Okay. Before we get more into what was going on there, I have set up a little experiment for you.
Yes.
I have, for this show, if you've not noticed, we have 3 cameras set up, which is way overkill for that. But we've got the
Rob cam
camera, the main camera, and we also have Susan
artist
camera.
cam.
But I have, for this experiment, set up a 4th cam. The 4th cam is hidden in our house somewhere.
Oh, hell no.
And it is pointing at something, an object or objects. So I would like you to draw right now what that camera is pointing at. Now, as you draw, I'll just explain a little bit. I will tell you, because when they did remote viewing, they would give them a location. So I'm just going to tell you this. The location is my bathroom. There's a camera in my bathroom pointed at something. So while Susan's drawing, again, I'll just tell you a little bit about how these remote viewing things went. So what they would do is the way that they actually did the remote viewing was supposed to be a foolproof double blind situation. So there would be 3 people involved. Person 1 would come up with a target or set up the thing, right? They would put the idea inside an envelope, or some might say envelope, and then they would bring it to the second person, okay? So there's a handoff there. So the second person doesn't know what it is. They don't know the location of the remote viewing target. And then the third person, who is the person with psychic powers, would need to read this envelope, not knowing what was in it, and then be able to remote view this area and see what it is, right? So that was the military. And because this also, and this is more later that we'll get into it, but this was also because you don't want the psychic, you can't tell the psychic to say, hey, we know like Area 51, we know there's something there, what can you see? Well, now you've planted this idea.
Right.
Right, and then they could guess. They could go, well, it might be an airplane, It might be this. You know what I mean? So you don't really want to do that. So it was kind of a double blind thing, right? But anyway, the guy that they had testing this was able to do that. They said, we're going to go put things in the other room. And then he would go, and he would draw what was in the other room. And more often than not, he was right.
But then did they later find out it was some kind of a hoax?
Well, we're not there yet. So let's see what you've come up with in your remote viewing here. What does that say?
It says wipe your paws. It's a litter box.
Yeah. Oh, that's the cat's litter box, which is in my bathroom.
See, there's a little steamy turd.
It sure is. Isn't that a treasure?
Wouldn't that be the funniest thing if we had a camera that was motion sensitive on the litter box? Because Carol does the weirdest stuff when she poops. She stands up like a little human while she poops.
Does she?
Yes, she puts her feet on the edge of the litter box and she's very serious. She gets this look on her face and she's like...
Oddly enough, when they go there, I leave, so I've never actually seen that.
So is it the litter box?
Let's go look at the camera, the live cam right now. Oh, look, it is a carrot, sushi, wasabi, and the little, what do you call the little strips that come with your sushi?
It's the ginger.
Ginger and Santa Grogu sitting on the back of my toilet.
That is so weird.
Which is, that's live, by the way, from our house. So it turns out that is nothing like what you draw. And your remote drawing capabilities.
I thought my remote drawing was fine.
I mean, your remote drawing is right up there with your drawing.
Right.
All right. So anyway, so the government gets this guy, and he's like A1 number one psychic.
Is
right?
it Uri Geller?
It is Uri Geller.
Oh!
You are a psychic, after all.
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Urine Geller? No? See what I did there?
Unfortunately.
Yes. Okay.
So they were like, "We got this guy now. The guys in the room, they would say like, "Hey, we're gonna go in this other room and we're gonna put some stuff in this room, and then we're gonna come back." And then Uri Geller would go, "I'm gonna use my mind powers to see what was in there. I'm gonna show you one of Uri Geller's drawings from that time." And as you can see, this is an actual picture of Uri Geller's drawing. Some of the things he thought might be there were a pair of glasses and a pen on a desk, which, by the way, I have read that one of the guys in the room went over there with glasses and then came back without glasses.
Yeah, right. So, the other thing was a table with spoons on it, which we all know Uri Geller was a spoon bender.
A spoon bender, and that's one of the things that he did to prove to them. Again, he also wrote there might be drums. I don't know why he thought there would be drums in there, but you can see in the bottom right it says pen, and then you could also see the glasses.
And then some random avocado-looking thing.
Yeah, so... Anyway, so he was like, I'm the real deal. They were like, he's the real deal. And so now this is being run by the CIA. So he has fooled 2 CIA employees, and they report up and they're like, this guy's the real deal, right? So they turned it over. They brought in other people to watch the experiments. And one of the guys they brought in was a professor of psychology. And he came in and he said immediately he showed them all the tricks he was doing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the scientists or the people that were testing ESP. They weren't able to detect the tricks, but a professor of psychology
was like,
was like, yes, he's doing very basic tricks. Okay. So basically, they said this is all done. It's fake. It's not working. Okay, and basically the CIA lost interest in that project, and they transferred it over to the Army, and so this was actually being run in Fort Meade, and this became known as Operation Grill Flame. And there was an incident that if this had not happened, you got something for us?
This is Uri Geller's drawing right here.
It is very similar.
Right?
That looks very close. Yeah. There's the pen. There's the glasses. What's that at the top?
It's a snake.
Oh, a snake.
Noise and then pen.
There you go.
Yep. Spoons on the table.
Yeah. So you are as good
as Uri Geller.
as you, you know when you're not. You're in. So this thing, Operation Grill Flame, what happened was there was a Soviet jet that crashed. And it crashed in the the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Oh.
I think when we just call it the Congo.
Yeah, probably.
At that time, it was Zaire. But now it's the Congo. And I just got to ask, because as I was taking notes, I was like, what do I know about the Congo? What do you know about the Congo?
Nothing that won't get me in trouble on this show. I mean, I don't know anything.
Right.
But...
I mean, literally, I was like, it seems like something I should know more about. I was like, I think the Three Stooges went there one time. I think there's a horror movie called Congo that has a giant ape in it. I was like, that's what I got. There's
nothing.
At one point, there's a gorilla that throws coconuts down and tries to get you. That's from the game Congo Bongo. I don't know if that's officially
I don't officially know anything about the Congo.
I don't either. Okay, but this Soviet military jet crashed in the Congo, and the United States wanted to recover it because they were like, we could get information about, whenever a plane goes down, right? And so they got this lady, and her name was Rosemary Smith. And they got Rosemary Smith, and she said that she could also do this remote viewing, and it gave her a map basically of the entire Congo and said, what do you got? What you need to remote view. And she went, woo, whatever remote viewers do. Actually, it's actually not like that. It's actually, they most of them want to get into a sensory deprivation tank, which you've actually done.
I love it.
For fun. And she got into this tank, and then they had put a map in front of her, and she put a dot on the map and said, that's where it's at. She said, I magically viewed the Congo from Fort Meade, outside of Washington, D.C. I see where the jet is. This is where it's at. They gave the map to Army intelligence guys who looked at the dot and said, this is the longitude and latitude of her dot. They sent people there. 2 days later, they found the jet. It was exactly where she drew the dot.
What the heck?
100% on the dot. On the nose, on the dot. So, it probably...
wow.
This project probably would have been dead if that hadn't happened. Mm-hmm. But then when that happens, everybody's like, oh, it's back on, baby. It's time to bring the remote viewing back, right? So there's another guy that's fun to talk about. And I could talk about him for hours. We don't have hours. But his name was... his last name is McMoneagle. Maybe McMoneagle? We're going to say McMoneagle. Okay.
Or McMonocle.
McMoneagle is look, Mayor McCheese, didn't he have a monocle? I don't know she was drawing, and I don't want to see what she's drawing for McMoneagle. So McMoneagle, okay, so first of all, he is an Army veteran. His name is Joseph McMoneagle, okay? And first of all, let me just say this. You know when people start like to get into specifics and it doesn't matter, but it's important to them.
Yeah, like you ask them what time it is and they tell you how to build a watch.
Right.
Yeah.
Joseph McMoneagle. What is that? Oh, that's
That's Joseph McMonocle.
that's
I say, top of the morning to ya.
he's not Irish. I don't. Well,
It's
it could be,
McMonocle. He might be
McMoneagle.
Scottish. I don't know.
That looks like a leprechaun that got punched in the eye.
That's his monocle.
Okay. So, first of all, he's very specific because he says, I do remote viewing, but I also do out-of-body experiences. And he says they're different. So he says, for example, and he's given speeches. He used to give speeches. There are speeches of his on YouTube. He would say, remote viewing is like you could see a bunch of different things. Like remote viewing, you could scan an entire state. You see what I'm saying? Like you could just go, I'm viewing this whole area. Like you're just viewing another place, right? But an out-of-body experience is like if your body were to just go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So he said he did things like they would say, hey, how is this missile put together? Mm-hmm. And he would do an out-of-body experience and zoop, go over to where the missile is. And then he said, I could stick my head in there and I could see all the parts.
Like project himself in there.
Yes, that's what he would say. Like astral projection, except for on this plane, not going to other planes of existence, okay? He was employed, part of this project, from 1978 to 1984, okay? So a long time. Now, he's the guy who said that basically part of this double-blind test. So they would give him what he calls mundane targets.
Oh.
So a guy outside the room would put a target inside an envelope, seal the envelope. He would walk into the room and hand it to the guy running the experiment, who would put it in his pocket and not know what was in the envelope.
Oh, yeah.
And then, Joseph would be in his deprivation chamber, and he would say, focus on the envelope and tell us what's there, right? And so he calls them mundane targets because it would be like, go look here, and he would say, I don't see anything. Go look here, I don't see anything, right? And so one day, and this is according to him, they said, they didn't tell him, but they decided they were going to test him, give him the old, see if this is real, okay? And so what they did was, they wrote something inside an envelope, gave it to the guy who didn't know what was written on the envelope, and then old Joseph went to work, right? Joseph goes, you know what I see? I see very tall, thin people. They are wearing strange clothes. Their clothes are skin tight. And I also see obelisks. Is that how you say that?
Obliques.
Obelisks?
Obelisks,
Yeah.
yes, whatever. Oblique.
Not to be confused with the oubliettes,
Yeah.
which are a place where you put people when you want to forget about them.
I so wish I knew that
It's
reference.
from Labyrinth. That's what a Hoggle says to Siri. She
okay,
falls in the
okay,
oubliette.
okay.
She goes, where am I, an oubliette? It's a place you go when you want to forget about someone.
So he sees...
Oh, a trinket. Plastic. So he sees tall, skinny people, right? Mm-hmm. He says, what did you say it was? Obelisks?
Oblique.
Obliques?
I don't know.
Obelisks. Like the...
like the Washington Monument.
Washington Monument is a four-sided thing that has a pyramid at the top. And then he says, I see pyramids. And then he goes, what are you viewing? And he goes, I don't know. He goes, but that's what I see. And then he says, I also see a deep area and something else. And also, apparently on this envelope, according to him, it also had a longitude and a latitude.
Oh, wow.
Okay? So they open up the envelope, and the envelope says, the planet of Mars, 1 million BC. So he didn't, and also it has the longitude and the latitude. He says that the longitude and the latitude that he was given correspond to, have you ever seen that thing that looks like a face on Mars?
Yeah.
And then next to that, there's a valley. And he said these are all the things that he said, that there was a monument, that there was a valley. So that's basically what he says. He says this is all proven, documented, that he visited Mars. And that's a guy with a pizza on his head. And he's mailing a letter.
I was thinking about Johnny Carson when he would do Karnak the Great.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and he had that hat that looked like a pillow.
Yeah.
But it does kind of look like a pizza
Yeah, I
box,
have a
I'm not
jewel.
gonna lie. Yeah. But, oh, yeah, the jewel. then he's like, there's the envelope, and then he's seeing the pyramids and then people in strange clothes.
I will
Tall
say
people.
this. I don't want to throw this up because that pyramid may be the best thing you've drawn on the show so far.
It's like that time that lady drew the Rubik's
As
Cube on
opposed
Mason's
to,
birthday
let's look
cake.
at the Great Karnak, who I thought was Toad from Super Mario Brothers. The pyramid's pretty good. So that's what he says. He says he had no idea what was in the envelope. He's all confused because he's like, I'm seeing tall, skinny, basically Martians
Like basketball players, pretty much is what he
wearing
saw.
tight clothes,
Yeah.
standing around a pyramid or whatever, and then he finds out that it's Mars. So again, he's a little cuckoo. He makes big differences between remote viewing and out-of-body experiences because he's the one that was like, if I have out-of-body, he goes, I just have to do what the job calls for. You know, if they need me to go see like what a base looks like, he might do remote viewing or
Depends
find
on
a
who's
base.
paying me. What I
Right,
see.
if I need to find a base, I'll do remote viewing. If you say, how does this thing work? He can do out of body and go there. But then he also says, now he can do out of body and also time travel. Because he went back 1,000,000 years.
McMonagle's one talented boy.
He does it all. Okay, so this basically, the army at some point says, you know what, we're kind of done with this. Like, it hasn't really given us a lot of positive stuff. You know what, I wanted to find a quote here. Let me see if I can find this quote real quick. One of the things was that this was brought up like in... it was brought up in the House Permanent Select Committee of Intelligence, and there was a Representative Charlie Rose that was talking about this because this is when they were talking about defunding this whole project the first time. You know, they were like, "This is hooey" or whatever, and basically he said, "As far as I'm concerned, this program seems like a hell of a lot or a hell of a cheap radar system, and if the Russians have it and we don't, we're in serious trouble." So that's kind of the reasoning behind why we kept doing it, is because they really thought that the Russians were spending money on it. Now, maybe the Russians were spending money on it. The Russians don't have a FOIA act like we do.
Right.
Right? So,
Yeah.
so we don't really know the reality, right? All this stuff was based off of was a budget line item that someone supposedly got that said 60 million rubles were being spent a year.
May or may not be a real memo. Right.
Right. I mean, there, of course, Cold War, there would have been tons of misinformation being leaked.
On purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
So in 1995, the Army says, we're kind of done with this. We're going to transfer it back to the CIA. And so the CIA hired a third party, the American Institute of Research, American Institute for Research. And they said, we need you to do a study. And so they did a study of everything that had been done from 1972 to 1995. And they said, nothing has ever come from this. Not one single provable thing. Now, I don't know how that lines up with the story about Rosemary Smith, who supposedly found that plane. You know what I mean? Like, if that, I mean, that's supposedly a documented thing, but so I don't know why they said nothing ever happened from it, you know? They're probably looking at Uri Geller.
How big is the Republic of the Congo? Like, could I have thrown a dart at it and they would have found it in 2 days anyway?
No, I mean, they specifically took that dot and changed it, you know, from her dot, made a longitude and latitude, and that was it. So,
Okay.
I mean,
Weird.
based on what I know from Congo Bongo, the Congo consists of at least 3 different levels. So I don't know if that's... And it also costs $0.25 to go there.
Okay.
So basically that's what they said. They said nothing involved with remote viewing has ever been proven to work, and then based on that, the whole project was canceled. So that was in 1995, which, by the way, just to put that in time frame, we were married.
Oh.
So this isn't like some crazy thing in the 20s or, you know,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
old-timey, like like a Charlie Chaplin, like, you know, like this is like modern times where they're like, they'll just keep throwing millions of dollars. Maybe somebody will psychic view something for us. And then it kind of died. The story died. Like it went away, right? And then what happened is in 2017, the government put all their unclassified documents online. So before that, you had to go to where the National Archives or whatever to view things, but then it went online, and then people found all this stuff about the project that had been Project Stargate that had been declassified.
Okay.
And so that's when they got a lot, more information about this. One of the things that I don't know if this is actually in those documents or people got from those documents, but based on those documents, it says that a lot of our successes, so maybe this goes back to the Rosemary Smith case, I don't know, but it says that a lot of our reported successes were doctored by the CIA. So we might have been playing our own little disinformation game, leaking that back to the Russians,
right?
Saying, "Oh, guess how we found your jet? Ooh, we use a little psychic mind reading.
The psychic U-2 spy plane.
We got old Uri Geller on the case, and he went in there and was like, "I see you got spoons." I don't know even how big
He
your
should have
spoons.
known they were going to bring spoons. By the way, that's what he did.
I mean, literally, I feel like a guy came in there in the room and he goes, "All right, Yuri, we're going to try it." And then he left, and then he came back without his glasses and goes, "Guess what I left in the other room?"
He
goes,
he does this.
"Here's some glasses."
He takes off his glasses and he goes, "Guess what I left in the other room?"
He comes back in without his pants and he goes, "Best 2 out of 3, Yuri." Then he drew a pair of pants and he goes,
Maestro, where are your pants?
he goes, "Got you again." So that's a good reference.
All right.
So, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of Project Stargate, There's been some movies that are based on it. There's been some things. The Men Who Stare at Goats, did you ever see that? George Clooney, whatever, good movie. But it's basically based on this. Not with the people's names and stuff, but the idea behind it is, that there are government guys that they brought them in to train them and use their psychic powers, I mean, that guy that, what was his name? McNugget?
McMonagle.
McEagle.
McMonagle.
McMoneagle, yes. He was touring around. Like, he goes and he does big speeches and things, and he says stuff like, well, I had a trainer with the government, and they were training me, and he said that he laid in a dark room and laid on salt, but I don't know if he meant salt water, where he would float like a deprivation thing, or if he was literally laying on salt. It's not really clear, so, but anyway, that's Project Stargate. What do you think about all that?
I mean, so it doesn't surprise me that the government would have paid for this kind of research and stuff, especially if it was in competition with another country. The results, the Congo thing, I would have to see how big the Congo is. I mean, I think, well, one, it could be doctored results, right? From the CIA playing games.
Could be.
Could be the lady just got really damn lucky.
Could be.
It could be that she threw a dart and then they flew around for 2 hours until they found the crash.
Or she's able to remote view in the Congo.
I mean, it's a gift not everybody has.
Let's see if you have it. Nope.
Oh my God, one of them's gone. Oh, look, it's in the cat box.
Grogu got flushed.
No, I totally believe. I'm just going to tell you a story. So my dad worked for the government. He died in '93. So before then.
So when he was alive, this was happening.
When he was alive, they came in and did tests on him where they hooked him up to electrodes and were trying to read his brainwaves. And so that would have been like in the 80s.
Is that true?
Ask him. He told the story whenever he came home from work one day.
Yeah.
So they're always trying all kinds of things to see what they can push in technology and stuff.
Yeah.
So the results are a little bit... I think McNugget was probably a whack job.
Yeah.
But it does not surprise me because I've seen so many people come up to work with ideas and be like, let me propose this. I need $5 billion to research it. And they'll be like, just give them the money so we'll get the hell out of our office,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the other thing, and I mentioned this kind of at the top of the show, but it does say in the documents that it was never proven whether or not the Soviet Union, Soviet Union did a lot of kooky things. We know some of those things from World War II and some of the testing that they did. They did really terrible things, right? But it's never been, they've never released whether or not they were actually doing psychic release stuff, or psychic research and that. But what's in our documents is that we thought they were. And so it was just like if you heard, North Korea is about to get to the moon, we might not be able to see what they're doing, but if we have intelligence that we believe is accurate, then we're going to react to that.
We're going to try and get to the moon.
So that's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah,
So.
no, I totally believe the government did it. As for the people's responses, I mean, I think McNugget was probably just out there to make money. He was like P.T. Barnum type dude, and how genius for him to be able to project and see something on the moon, which cannot be verified, right?
I'm going to tell a quick story. One time, you remember this? We went, and this was 5 years ago, we went to a garage sale, and it was in a giant metal building that was in an industrial area. And when we went in there, it became immediately evident that, number one, the people that owned that building were hoarders, and number two, they lived there.
Best kind of garage sale.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Love it.
I asked him if they had any like home stereo speakers, and the guy said, I have 50 pairs.
Find them.
Right, they were everywhere. It was like a maze.
Yeah.
And actually, I bought 2 DVDs. It was remember those DVDs that would have music and then it had like computer animation, like people. And but they had each one of them. They had like 20 copies, and they were unopened of the same, not different ones, but the same movie. You know.
Yeah.
And so anyway. When we were talking to him, I was like, why are you getting rid of all this stuff? And the guy said, well, we're moving, And I was like, oh, where are you moving? And they said, well, we're going to open up this cafe / something else on near Area 51. We want to, and I thought that's a cool business model, because there's the Ailey Inn. There's other businesses there that capitalize on people coming to, just coming to see stuff, right? And that kind of tourism kind of thing, right?
Right. Little Green Man Porta Potty Company.
Right. Whatever is there. And so one of the things that then he said, oh, yeah, I'm going to set up my telescope and all this. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And he goes, yeah, I have a telescope on the roof of this building. And that's where I watch the people, the buildings, and all the stuff that's being built on the moon.
And that's when we went, hee-hoo.
That's when I turned her. A minute later, I walked by her and I said, don't mention where we work. Because we both worked for the government at the time. And I was like, this guy...
He's going to kill us.
Is going to kill us. And he will... first of all, to get out of there would be like amazing. Like if he's chasing you, you'd have to run all the way around there, Mm-hmm. It always surprises me when somebody seems relatively sane and lucid, and then they start telling you things that I don't think are real. I don't think this guy has a telescope on his building that he can see buildings being built on the moon.
He might have a telescope on.
He might have a telescope, but and so, it's just surprising to me that you think. I guess there's one part of me that says, and we'll wrap it up here, where he would say, I can't believe the government would dump this much money into doing this, and that they were easily fooled. On the other hand, we've worked with a lot of interesting people at the government, and I can, off the top of my head, think of a few that if they got the funding, would go down this rabbit hole. And would be easily fooled by Uri Geller. So,
right?
You got a final drawing to take us out here?
Yeah. This is the it's the dude on the building.
I also think he was probably open carry. I do feel like he was armed.
And it probably unlicensed open carry.
Yeah. Somebody got scooted, or the camera got scooted. Something happened there.
What happened?
I don't know. Well, you weren't on that camera. And then you're holding the thing in front of your face.
Oh.
Whoop.
Oh. Yeah.
It's show 4. We're working out all the kinks.
Right. Yeah, no, you're never going to get me there. Anyway, yeah. So we've driven by that guy's building a couple of times just to finish that up. And I think they still live there in this warehouse.
Yeah.
It's a little kooky. There are kooky people everywhere.
They're kooky people, and some of them, and they all have jobs.
Right.
And some of them, I guess, are in the CIA.
Some of them are in the FBI.
And some of them bend spoons.
Right. I hope that when you edit this video that you turn us into aliens.
That wasn't Photoshop, folks. It was AI. That was amazing. So.
Right. There you go.
All right. Thanks for watching the shows. Thanks for listening to the shows. If you want to follow us a little bit, I'm doing some stuff on Instagram at Kooky Tales Podcast. You can watch these videos on YouTube at the @ Kooky Tales Podcast. That's the only way to see all of Susan's great artwork. Although sometimes I do share them on Instagram. And you can email us at kookytalespodcast@gmail.com. So if you have feedback about the show or want to tell us, about this episode or suggestions for other episodes, that's how you can get a hold of us.
So are you leaving the toilet cam up so people can see what the fruit is up to?
No, because after we get done with this, I got to go to the bathroom, so I won't be turning up the toilet cam. But of course, it's on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
It's on iTunes. So if you just want to listen to us. Be silly, and you can do that there too.
Yeah, I finished my drink, so it must be time to go.
Time to go. So,
right.
Thanks everybody for listening to another Kooky Tale, and we will see you here next week. Was that one kooky enough for you?
Yeah, you're still recording.
I know this is the part where I fade it out, where we talk and we keep talking, and then I do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it'll sound real realistic now.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed that nobody was able to actually. I'm disappointed in myself that I wasn't able to see the fruit. I feel bad about myself.
The fruit?
Or the carrot on your toilet, the toilet carrot.
Oh.
I knew it was the litter box the whole time.
Well, work on your remote viewing.
I mean, I do every day.
No, that's just spying on me. That's different. Let's look
I'm going to have to get a monocle. Maybe I'll be better at it.
All right.